Yeah, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'm just recording this. The rest of it is all recorded, but I don't want to talk about this, which is a woman who's breastfeeding or pregnant, and who misses her fast, does she have to do qada or not? Does she have to make that up or not? That's the discussion, right? So here in Tirmidhi, I'm just trying to find it. Here we go. So it says, here it says, حدثنا أبو كريب ويوسف بن عيسى قال حدثنا وكيع. This is the Sheikh of Imam Shafi'i. قال حدثنا هلال عن عبد الله بن سوادة عن أنس بن مالك. رجل من قال أغارت علينا خيل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فأتيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فوجدته يتغدى فقال أدن فكل فقلت إني صائم فقال أدن أحدثك عن الصوم أو الصيام إن الله تعالى وضع عن المسافر الصوم والشطر الصلاة وعن الحامل أو المرضع الصوم أو الصيام والله لقد قالهما النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كلتيهما أو إحداهما فيا لهف نفسي ألا أكون طعمت من طعام النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Okay, so he says, um, so he says, some cavalrymen of the Messenger of Allah came galloping up to us. So I came to the Messenger of Allah and found him having lunch, i.e., it's probably Ramadan. He said, come and eat. And I said, I am fasting. He said, come and I will tell you about fasting. Right? He says, indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has lifted, has alleviated, right? Half of the half of the prayer from the traveler, right? You do qasr, and has lifted the fast, meaning he doesn't have to fast at all, or doesn't have to fast now. So when you say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it says, what does it say in Arabic? It says, إن الله تعالى وضع عن المسافر الصوم. Right? The traveler does not have to fast, right? Allah has taken it off him. Does it mean he doesn't fast now or doesn't fast at all? Muhammad, are you there?
Yeah, not sure, Sheikh.
So a traveler.
Possibly.
So for the traveler, Muhammad, if you're traveling,
Oh,
when you don't fast, you can break you don't have to fast, right? But do you
you,
have to fast later on?
you, yes.
Right? Allah tells that explicitly in the Quran, right? فمن كان منكم مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر, right? It's there explicitly in the Quran. Whoever of you is sick or traveling, then another time. Khalas. Days other time. So we have to do that. So here the hadith does not mention that. But the verse of the Quran mentions it. Right? And from the pregnant person. So the verse of the Quran does not mention pregnant or breastfeeding person. Right? But are they not at 100% analogous to a sick person? And if that's the case, then فَمَنْ كَانَ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ, whoever is sick or on a journey, فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ, make it up later. Okay? So now there's that hadith. If you read the hadith by itself, it tells you that the traveling person does not have to fast now or later. And the pregnant woman or breastfeeding woman does not have to fast now or later. Okay? So now he doesn't mention, you can't see the whole thing here in it doesn't translate. In the Arabic, it says here. So it says, قال وفي الباب عن أبي أمية. So Abu Isa says there's another hadith from Abu Umayyah. قال أبو عيسى, Tirmidhi says, حديث أنس بن مالك الكعبي حديث حسن لا نعرفه لأنس بن مالك هذا عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم غير هذا حديث واحد. Right, he says this hadith is good hadith, and this is the only hadith we know from this individual called Anas ibn Malik. This is not the other Anas ibn Malik. There's another one. He says, وَالْعَمَلُ عَلَى هَذَا عِنْدَ أَهْلِ الْعِلْمِ, and the people of Scotland, the scholars of sacred knowledge, they apply this hadith. وقال بعض أهل العلم الحامل والمرضع تفطران وتقضيان وتطعمان. He says, and some scholars they say no. If you break if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, you break your fast, you make it up, and you also feed, meaning you're gonna have to do a fidya. وبه يقول سفيان ومالك والشافعي وأحمد, and this is the position of Sufyan al-Thawri and Imam Malik and Imam Shafi'i and Imam Ahmad. وقال بعضهم تفطران وتطعمان ولا قضاء عليهما. Right, and some scholars said they break their fast and they pay the expiation. ولا قضاء عليهما, and they don't have to do any qada. Right, وإن شاءتا قضتا ولا طعام عليهما, and if they wish, they basically have an option. They either can do qada or they can feed the poor. وبه يقول إسحاق, and this is the position of Ishaq ibn Rahaway. Okay, let me read it one more time because of the Arabic. So he says, the ulama apply this hadith. Some of them say that the pregnant or breastfeeding woman breaks their fast, makes it up, and feeds the poor for each day. And he says, and this is the position, that's called the fidya. It says this is the position of Sufyan al-Thawri, of Imam Malik, of Imam Shafi, and Imam Ahmad. And then he says, some have said, no, she breaks her fast and feeds the poor, and she does not have to do qada. But if she wants to, she can do qada, and if she wants to, she can feed the poor. She can do either or. And this is the position of Ishaq, i.e. Ishaq ibn Rahaway. Okay, so question number one. When Imam Shafi'i says she does qada and she feeds the poor, is that really true? Is that the Shafi'i school that if you break... So number one, if you are pregnant, can you break your fast? Number one.
Yes.
So as soon as she has a pregnancy test, khalas, she can break her fast.
If it's going to harm her
Thank you.
or the
So number
baby.
one, the legal reason is not being pregnant or breastfeeding. It is being pregnant and breastfeeding when it harms you or harms your child. That's the legal reason, number one, right? Number two, does she feed? You say if she broke her fast for somebody else. She broke her fast for the baby. She broke her fast because she's breastfeeding for the baby. So if she fears for herself, she does not pay the fidya. She does not feed the poor for each day. But if she broke her fast for somebody else, she will do that. Okay? So what do we notice? Is this quote from Tirmidhi very accurate and very detailed?
Not exactly.
No, it's not. Okay? How would I can do the same thing. I could imagine the Hanbali school is probably more complex than what's said here. The Shafi school is more complex than what's said here. The Maliki school, etc. How would I find out the fatwa of Sufyan al-Thawri?
Through the books of fiqh.
He has a madhab. Is there a madhab called the Thawri madhab?
No.
So how am I supposed to work it out?
Studying, I guess, through the lens of the Madhahib.
So my point I'm trying to make here is that when you see these nebulous quotes, right? These nebulous quotes in hadith books, it's only useful in as much as I can do adopt of that madhab, in as much as I can go and find out what that madhab is actually saying. And so if I want to try and follow Sufyan al-Thawri, I won't be able to because there's no madhab that has organized his positions. You just have random quotes here and there, but it's not a clear picture at all. So it's not that Sufyan al-Thawri is not a scholar, it's that I don't know what he said. Just like I can come along here and having studied the Shafi'i school, I'm like, yeah, that's not what Imam Shafi'i said. Exactly. It could actually genuinely be a mistake, right? Like Tirmidhi says that Imam Shafi'i said Taraweeh should be prayed at home, according to Imam Shafi'i, but it's not. That's not the Shafi'i school, right? So it could be genuinely mistaken, or it's just not very accurate. Okay, does that make sense? So it's not that I can't follow Sayyidina Ali or Ibn Abbas or um, this for Sahabi or that Tabi'i or Sufyan al-Thawri. Sufyan al-Thawri is a huge scholar, huge scholar. The issue is he doesn't have a madhab. It's not recorded, it's not clarified. I don't know what it even means. It would actually be impossible to follow it, right? It's like saying, "Hey, I want to speak like Gal the local dialect of Aramaic that Sayyidina Isa spoke. How do you speak that? I don't know. I mean, we roughly know there's a language called Aramaic, but like I want to speak like the lang in that place in that area in Palestine at that time. I don't know how they speak. I have no idea, and it would be impossible to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like I know in general that they spoke a language, but I don't know actually what it is. How do they pronounce things? Not sure what's going on. It's just nebulous, loose. Okay. So now I come along and I say, Habibi, let's make life easy for people. 100%. Let's not be dogmatic about things that are not dogma. If there's debate among the fuqaha, why don't we just give people the easy route out? Fantastic. So here it says, some of them have said she breaks her fast and she just feeds. She doesn't have to do qada. Is that easier or is that harder for a woman? Like, wouldn't it be better like, hey, I'm pregnant. Like I really, you know, I'm pregnant. I really don't want to think, oh my God, I have to do these fasts later on, right? Wouldn't it be nice to just say, hey, sister, just, break your fast and just feed the poor, right? Wouldn't that be good? Wouldn't it be easy for her?
Sounds nice.
Yeah, Ahmed, what do you think? You're probably praying Fajr right
Yeah,
now.
sounds easier.
Sounds good, right? So I'd be very happy to follow that dispensation if if I know what it is. And he says, and there's no qada, she doesn't have to do qada either. وإن شاءتا قضتا ولا إطعام عليهما. And if they wish, they can just do qada as well, and they don't have to feed the poor. And this is the position of Ishaq ibn Rahaway. So again, this asks the same question. Where's the school of Ishaq ibn Rahaway? Doesn't exist. What did he actually say? Don't know. Did he actually say this? Don't know. What did he mean? Don't know. Can I follow it? No. So you see that? So people, when you say why can't I follow another madhab other than the former madhab? He says it doesn't exist. It's like saying I want to speak another language that was historically present, but you don't have the vocabulary or the grammar. You know what I'm saying? Like there's just evidence of this really ancient Indo-European language that was spoken in this area, and it probably existed, and it probably looks like it had this kind of grammar and this kind of vocabulary, but you don't have the whole vocabulary, so therefore you couldn't speak it, and you don't have the whole grammar, so therefore you wouldn't be able to speak it. And it's just interesting to look at historically, and that's it. You can't actually apply it. So when we say following the form of madhahib, it is about dabt and indibat. It is about dabt, meaning what is actually being said. Okay? And al-indibat is that making sure the average person follows something that makes sense and making sure the researcher does research in a proper way. Right? What are you doing? Right? What is meant by this? So when you don't have dabt and indibat, you don't have like, what is this? Then you can't do it. It's not a thing. Right? It's like coding. Which language? No, just code. You can't code without language. No, just code. Like stop being so technical. Just code. So that's not a thing, right? So when you say, oh yes, so they'll mention, can you follow a position outside the form of madhahib? Yes. Okay, but what if you don't understand what it is? Then you can't follow it because I don't know what it is. So I don't know, just as I have seen Tirmidhi or other people quote Imam Shafi'i, and it's not the Shafi'i school. Similarly, they might quote Ibn Abbas or quote Ishaq ibn Rahawayh, and I don't know if that's true or not, number one. Number two, what does it mean? I know what that means in the Shafi'i school. I can go and look at Ashbah Nadahir. How, when you say difficult for a pregnant woman, how difficult? I can find out similar scenarios. I have something to work with. But I don't know what Ishaq ibn Rahawayh means by difficult for a pregnant woman. Does he mean difficult? Does he mean pregnant? There's not the same thing. Does that make sense? So this is a very important concept. Very important concept. It's going to apply to the Salafi methodology. Salafi methodology, find a Sahih Hadith, find somebody of the Sahaba or Tabi'een who had in a position, it agrees with the Sahih Hadith, roll with it. But do you actually understand that position? So you've decided that position A is stronger than position B, but you don't actually understand what A is. So how did you work that out? What are you even weighing up? Right? It applies to the Salafi methodology, also applies to the those who don't follow. So I wouldn't say modernists, but say people who are trying to make the deen easier by saying why follow the four madhahib when there are other positions. The question is, I have no problem following the fifth madhab or sixth madhab, no problem. The issue is I don't know what it is. Right? And how would you know that you don't know what it is? By studying a madhab, you're like, oh yeah, when I study a madhab, I understand what it is. What is the process? What is going on here? Right? And so but when you look at these quotes here, and that's just interesting, that's about it. Right? I don't know what it is, and I don't know what he means by these things. And so it is not that you have to follow the form of madhahib because they are revelation, is that there is no viable alternative. You don't have anything that's there's no reasonable alternative. It's like silly. It's like drive this car or this car or this car. Car doesn't have an engine. Why? It's like, well, it doesn't have an engine. It has gone through no checks and balances. I don't know what it's like. It's not a viable option. It's not a viable alternative, right? So the former dhahib, each of them are viable alternatives for the other, right? Ridiculous amount of research, ridiculous amount of checking, clarifying. But whatever is outside the former dhahib is just question mark. That's all, right? Does that make sense, inshallah?
Makes sense.
Right? So what is Ishaq ibn Rahaway's position? Allegedly.
That you don't have to do qada.
Okay, if you are,
You are pregnant
or
or breastfeeding
breastfeeding.
or
Okay. So we asked the question, do you mean the fact that I'm breastfeeding, or do you mean that it's difficult? And do you mean it's difficult me, or do you mean it's difficult for my baby? Right? When you say I'm pregnant, do you mean that I'm pregnant, or do you mean that it's difficult when I'm pregnant? And when you say it's difficult, you mean for me or for the baby? What do you mean? Right? I don't know. There's no answer. I don't know what it means, and we don't have a way to find out. Right? And did he even have that position? I don't know. You open the books, for example, of Fatawa Sahaba and Tabi'een. Sayyidina Ali said X, Sayyidina Ali said opposite of X. So I'm confused, like super confused. Sayyidina Ali apparently was okay, like that if a woman got married without a wali and she married somebody who was an appropriate match, it was okay. He would kind of accept it. At the same time, he's quoted to have been the staunchest of the Sahaba against people who got married without a wali. So I don't know what Sayyidina Ali. So I'm like, no, I follow Sayyidina Ali on this issue. Do you know what Sayyidina Ali said on that issue? You don't know. Whereas he asked that question, do you know what Abu Hanifa said on that issue? Yes, we do, and it's clear, and we know the evidence for and against, and the whole thing's done, right? Do you know what Imam Ahmad said on this issue? Yes, it's clear, right? Whereas anything outside of the form of dhahib, you just don't have that level of clarity. Period. It's just you kind of just. So it's like you're looking for something that is not a real thing. So this is kind of a teenager approach, right? A teenage approach. I'm just going to study online. I'm just going to study this. I'm going to do that, whatever it is. I'm going to live by myself. Okay, what's your setup, Mr. Teenager who's just rebelling against your parents? Like, what does it mean? I'm just going to work online. What is that exactly? Right? They don't actually know. They're just looking for an alternative to something, but they don't know what that is. Right? And so there is no viable, no realistic, contendable, if that's the word, you know, competing alternative to the form of dhahib other than another one of the form of dhahib. It doesn't exist. Simple as that. So in principle, yes, you can follow a position outside the form of dhahib, and in principle, you could look at two positions and weigh them up and try and say which is more correct. But you actually have to know what position A is and position B is, right? But if that's not possible, or you haven't done it, it's not possible in that, for example, I don't know what Ishaq and Rahaway is saying, or you haven't done it, I mean, you haven't actually studied Maliki fiqh or Hanafi fiqh. So how are you supposed to compare the two? Right. خير إن شاء الله. We'll stop here. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.